It's amazing to be able to sit in front of you this morning and to be able to bring the Word of God. I'm so thankful for this opportunity, just so thankful for this opportunity to share what God has shared with me. This morning we're going to be looking at the book of Hebrews. We'll be reading from the end of chapter 11 and the first part of chapter 12. We actually, as we did our prayer request this morning, we kind of gave some testimonies of faith. Vanessa sharing with us that she had faith in God, and she knew that we were praying for her, and this evil didn't have power over her. God had power over her because of her faith. And this morning, that's what we're going to be talking about. And so we're going to be reading from Hebrews chapter 11, verse 29, through Hebrews chapter 12 and verse 2. And this is the Word of God. By faith the people passed through the Red Sea as on dry land. But when the Egyptians tried to do so, they were drowned. By faith the walls of Jericho fell after the army had marched around them for 7 days. By faith the prostitute Rahab, because she welcomed the spies, was not killed with those who were disobedient. And what more shall I say? I do not have time to tell about Gideon, Barak, Samson, and Jephthah, about David and Samuel and the prophets, who through faith conquered kingdoms, administered justice, and gained what was promised, who shut the mouths of lions, quenched the fury of the flames, and escaped the edge of the sword, whose weakness was turned to strength, and who became powerful in battle and routed foreign armies. Women received back their dead raised to life again. There were others who were tortured, refusing to be released so that they might gain an even better resurrection. Some faced jeers and flogging, and even chains and imprisonment. They were put to death by stoning. They were sawed in two. They were killed by the sword. They went about in sheepskins and goatskins, destitute, persecuted, and mistreated. The world was not worthy of them. They wandered in deserts and mountains, living in caves and in holes in the ground. These were all commended for their faith, yet none of them received what had been promised, since God had planned something better for us, so that only together with us would they be made perfect. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of faith. For the joy that was set before him, he endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. This is the Word of God, and it can be trusted. Thanks be to God. So a couple of years ago, we started looking at getting an air purifier. We have 2 dogs and 4 cats, so you can imagine the air quality in the house. And those of you who have animals know the dander and the fur and everything associated with animals. And so we were looking at air purifiers, and as I'm looking at them, I'm one of those people that I'm going to spend like weeks and weeks, and sometimes longer than that, just making sure that I'm getting the perfect thing for our home. And so I was looking for this air purifier, and where I shop, you can click on a couple of things, and you can make sure, set them side by side and compare them across the board, and see how many BTUs they have, or how much, their air quality, or, does it take care of pet dander, because that was one of our requirements, and that type of thing. And so as I'm looking at it, I'm also looking at customer reviews and the stars that are beside each one. Now, sometimes when you look at those reviews, you can tell that it's not a real review. It's just somebody probably from that company saying something flowery. But when you get misspellings and people that are just talking like I'm talking with you and describing the product, it's a pretty decent review. So I'm looking at these reviews, and usually when I look for a product, I want to see everything 3 stars and up. Because sometimes the 3-star things are just as good as the 5-star thing. It just, you've got different people that are using it. And so I'm checking all these stars to see how many stars this product has. And so as you're looking at things that have stars, 1 star, you don't even want to bother looking at it. If something gets 1 star, the place that's selling it probably needs not to sell it anymore. If it has 2 stars, somebody might have liked it, but not many people at all. And usually they'll give you a bar review of, here's how many 4 stars and 3 stars and that type of thing. And so 3 stars is kind of the product's average, yes and no. And so that's kind of why I look at 3 stars and up. But 3 stars is kind of the product is average. When you get to 4 stars, the product is pretty good. And people usually go into a lot more detail about what that product has done for them. And how it worked. And so 4 stars is really, really a good review. Now, if you see a product that has 5 stars, that's really rare. And I'm usually cautious if I see 5 stars, because that means the product is perfect. That means that everything about this product works, and everything that this product is perfect and will work exactly the way it's designed to work. So as we're looking at faith this morning, I want us to look at some reviews of faith. So how do we know that faith works? So we're looking at this product, faith. How does it work? Where have we seen it work? Is there anybody that can personally testify that faith has really accomplished anything? And what reasons would I even have to rely on faith? So let's look at faith as we look at a review and see this faith that has 5-star reviews that are very, very valid. So let's look at the first review. Me and my family have been enslaved for just about as long as I can remember. We've been oppressed and pretty much forgotten about God. But God didn't forget us while we were in the land of Egypt. And He raised up somebody named Moses to get us out of the land of Egypt. Now, when Moses took us out of the land of Egypt, we weren't really sure, but for some reason we followed Moses because he seemed to be of God. And so we followed him out of Egypt and into the wilderness. And as we were going along, we came upon the Red Sea, and as we looked behind us, Pharaoh was behind us, and again we doubted. We doubted God, we doubted Moses, and we even thought about going back to Egypt. And me and my family were extremely desperate as to what was going to happen and what we were going to do, and so we again doubted God. But then all of a sudden the Red Sea parted, and we walked across on dry land. And so we were on the other side, and we were like so excited that God had done this for us, and we had trusted in Him. But then we saw Pharaoh following us. And again, our faith waned, and we doubted God again. But then we saw that God brought the waters together and destroyed Pharaoh and his army. And so even though we doubted God, He still was faithful, and He brought us to safety. 5 stars for faith. Review number 2. I was an officer in Joshua's army and commanded several hundred soldiers. So Joshua told us we were getting ready to go into battle because we knew that part of why we had come into the promised land was to take it over and to inhabit it, because that's what God promised. And so we're going up against the city, and the city has walls that are like really thick, so thick that the chariots can actually ride on the walls. So they actually had roads on top of the walls. They were so thick. And Joshua is telling us that we're going to this city, against this city in battle, but we're not supposed to really take any accoutrements of war. We're not taking our swords or spears or shields or anything. As a matter of fact, Joshua tells us that we're just going to march around the city, and we're going to be quiet while we do it. And I'm thinking, how am I supposed to tell my men to do something like this? I don't understand this myself. So how am I supposed to get my men to believe that this is what we're supposed to do? But somehow I got them to believe it because Joshua believed it. I knew that God was with Joshua, and so I believed Joshua. So we marched around the walls in silence, and then when we got done, Joshua told us we were going to do that again for 5 more days. The same thing. And so again, for some reason, I'm not sure why I trusted Joshua, but I did. I had faith in him because his faith in God was really strong, and so I trusted him. So we did it again. And then when we finished on that 6th day, marching around the city in silence, Joshua told us, he said, okay, now when we go around the city, he said, I want you to shout. I want you to shout a victory shout from God. And we were like, okay, hey, we can do that. We've done this in silence for 6 days. So I got my men together, and we got in our little squadron, and we marched around. And as we marched around, we shouted this battle cry from God, and those walls started crumbling. And they crumbled to the ground. These walls that were so thick that chariots could ride on top of them, they crumbled to the ground. Once again, I saw faith in action. 5 stars for faith. View number 3. I'm a prostitute, and I did not live a life that anyone would want to live. Matter of fact, I didn't even believe in God. I knew there was a God, but I didn't believe in God. And one day these 2 men came to me, and I knew they weren't from my city. As a matter of fact, they were trying to hide because they were from Israel. And everybody knew about Israel. Everybody knew about Israel's God, and everybody knew that the God of Israel took care of the children of Israel, and that He protected them. And we had heard about that, and me and my family knew all about that. And here these men were wanting to hide, and they were wanting me to hide them. I wasn't real sure about that because I didn't know who God was at the time. But these men, they talked to me about God, and they talked to me about the protection of God. And I asked them, I said, do you think God can protect me and my family? Do you think God would love me? Do you think God cares about me, especially who I am and what I do? And they told me yes. And I'm like, how could that be, that God could love somebody like me? But they kept telling me, no, you don't understand. This God loves everyone. This God's love is overwhelming, and He will protect you just like He protects us. And they told me that if I protected them and if I hid them from the people in my city that were looking for them, if I hid them, that they would protect me when Israel came against my city to destroy it. And they told me to hang this rope outside of my window, this red scarf-like thing outside my window, and that if I gathered all my family into my home with me, that when the Israelites came to destroy my city, me and my family would be saved. And I believed those men. I know it sounds silly, but for some reason I believed those men. And one day, Israel came, and they marched around the city for 6 days, and everybody else was laughing at them, and there were people in my city that were shouting over the walls at them and scoffing at them, and they never replied. And so I gathered my family into my house, and I told them what these men had told me, and my family believed me. And they understood what I was saying. And I told them, I said, for some reason I believe these men, and I believe God, and I believe that He's going to do what these men say He's going to do. And when those walls fell in my city, only me and my family were saved. I believed that God would be faithful, and God was. 5 stars for faith. Review number 4. I was saddened by the fact that my countrymen and I have been in captivity for so long. Each day I pray to God. I open my windows towards Jerusalem, and I pray to God and ask God for salvation for me and for my countrymen. We're in this land that nobody trusts in God. They worship idols here, and even people of Israel have turned to those idols, but I still pray faithfully to God because I trust God and I trust His plan for me. The king of Babylon, he really favors me, and he looks to me sometimes for advice. So I give him advice, but his assistants and the other people around him, they don't like me at all. So they've been looking for ways to trip me up. They've been looking for ways to bring harm to me, and they know that I pray to God every day, and they don't like that. And so they got the king to make this decree that everybody would worship the king and bow down to the king. And anybody that didn't would be thrown into the den of lions. That was pretty hard for me. And I knew that these men had done that just to trip me up. And I knew that even in the midst of what was going on, and even though the king had done this and made this decree, I still had to pray to God because I had faith in Him. And even if it meant death for me, I still had faith in God and trusted that God would use whatever He needed to use through me, be it my death or not. And so I just knew that God would protect me. And the king realized that he'd been tricked, and he came to me and he's like, I don't know what to do. And I told the king, I said, let me tell you something. My God is bigger than anything. And if God chooses for me to live or die, that's His choice, but I still trust Him. So don't you worry, because God is going to take care of me. The king still wasn't reassured, but he still had to obey the decree that he had made, and so I was thrown into the lion's den. And as I looked around at the lions, I could tell they were extremely hungry, but none of them moved. Not one. They didn't flinch at all. And all night long, I just prayed to God. And those lions just sat there and didn't move all night long. I could hear the king pacing above me. I could hear him pacing all night because he was so afraid of what was going to happen. But I trusted God, and I knew that God would take care of me. And in the morning, when the king was able to get me out, and he saw that I was okay and that nothing had happened, the king actually turned to the Lord, and he actually praised my God. So I knew that God was faithful, and I knew that my faith had been what had gotten me through that. And not only had it gotten me through, but it also helped me to witness to somebody else. Review number 5. I've been sick for so many years. It's been even hard for me to take care of my own family. I've been to so many doctors, I can't even tell you how many, and probably been on every medicine there is to be on, but nothing has helped. I'm not sure how much longer I can handle this. The pain is excruciating, and I just don't know what to do, and I'm at a loss, and I just don't know what to do. But you know, I've heard about this man named Jesus. People say that he's a rabbi. People say that he's healed people. And I know that he's coming to our town, but I know there's just going to be so many people around him. I mean, he's always mobbed everywhere he goes, and I don't know how I'm going to be able to get to him to tell him about what's going on with me, or to even ask him to help, or even get him to look at me. I mean, there's going to be so many people. But you know what? If I can work my way through the crowd and just touch the bottom of his robe, just touch him, I think I'll be healed. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to have faith that if I can touch him, I'm going to be healed. So I weave my way through the crowd, and people are just, it's just mashed up together, and I don't even know how I'm going to get to him. But I do, and I touch him with his garment. And as soon as I touch him, it's gone. It's gone. Whatever's in my body is gone. I feel so much better. I feel healed. I feel awesome. Jesus has healed me because I have faith. 5 stars for faith. Every one of these reviews are in the past. These are things we read about in the Bible. These are just a very few of the things in the Bible. But these are valid faith reviews that we read about. But that doesn't mean that there aren't reviews that we have today. That doesn't mean that God's not working in our lives today like he worked in their lives back then. We have faith today. We have it available to us. God gives us what we need when we ask him. When we feel that our faith is weak, remember these warriors of faith. Remember these people of faith who trusted God in the midst of just obstacles that seemed like they couldn't be overcome. And when trusting in God is difficult, remember those other times in your life when things have been difficult. When God has got you through times that you thought you'd never, ever make it through those times. And when you did trust God, remember that he did what he said he would. And sometimes he even does more than what he says he's going to do. Remember these people in the Bible. Read that chapter 11. Read every single one of those people who had faith and trusted God. And be aware of the fact that when they trusted God, they didn't even see the blessing yet. They hadn't even seen the Messiah yet. But they believed that one day that would happen. We've seen him. We know that he's truth and life and way. We know that about our God. We can have faith in something we have seen. These reviews keep coming in, not just from these people in the past, but from us as well. So we can continue to believe. And therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles us. And let us run with perseverance that race marked out before us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of our faith. Amen.